right, good afternoon and welcome. We're going to discuss a subject that, at least to me, is kind of near and dear to my heart. As much as I hate my home state of California, I'm also still kind of in a love-hate relationship with it. I wish it would get better. It won't, but I'm going to talk about just one example. The media will never tell you any of this because, frankly, they don't care. This isn't big news, but as a person who was born in the LA basin, but grew up in the San Fernando Valley, all through the late 80s and early 90s. Well, all through the 90s, actually. I'm a kind of an airplane fan. I love commercial aircraft. Wanted to actually be a commercial airline pilot. Unfortunately, sad news is it wasn't good enough, which is perfectly fine. But I'm still a huge fan of aviation and whatnot. And for those of you who have never heard of it or been to it, this is Burbank Airport in Los Angeles. This is, I'll show you with the other app here. This is LAX. This is Ontario. This is Long Beach. This is Santa Ana. And this is Burbank Airport. An airport which ought to be a lot bigger than it is, but I'll get into that. Okay? So go back to this other one. If you've never seen it, this is an airport that, frankly, with the amount of air traffic that LA has, should be a hell of a lot bigger than it is. Has its growth artificially restricted by I think it's rules by the city of. It's an airport that is shared ownership between the cities of Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena, and it is ran by LA World Airports, which, frankly, is a massive conflict of interest that never should have been allowed. But whatever. Point of it is, this is Burbank Airport. Okay. It is a very unique airport in that you will see here, you've probably seen it in a whole lot of Hollywood movies. It's been around probably, I think, since the 20s or the 30s. Lockheed used to have a facility. They used to test aircraft nearby. And this is the terminal. You can see how incredibly close that terminal is to the runway. And that has a lot to do with what I'm going to discuss here today. Now, just going to show you other airports. Okay. For example, LAX. The closest active runway is here. There is a taxiway here. Then you have, the various concourses. Okay. If I go to Long Beach is kind of an odd example. I'll go to Irvine. Okay. There's your runway. There's your taxiway. And there's your concourse facility. You see how far it is away from the runway. Okay, if I go to any other major airport, minor airport, don't matter. We'll give you an example of Phoenix, Vegas. Again, for safety reasons, there's your concourse, taxiway, additional taxiway, runway. Okay, same thing there. You go out to Vegas, it's the same thing there. Vegas's airport is very strange because that's the largest airport that is still in a downtown area, I think, in the United States. But at any rate, you still have concourse, taxiway, runway. Same thing, we go to Dallas. Okay, you get the idea. All of these are in conformity with FAA regulations. Your runway, taxiway, and your concourses. This is to keep the runway where something is landing and possibly might crash, or is taking off and, God forbid, something were to happen and an engine explodes or some crap, way the hell away from the concourses for safety reasons. Obvious safety reasons, okay? And you have the same exact situation at all these airports across the country. I've flown out of O'Hare, I've flown out of Milwaukee, they're all like this. They have this set up so that it is a certain distance away from the runway for a reason. O'Hare sucks. But you still have taxiway, 3 taxiway, then runway. Then taxiway, then runway. Okay, so they're all like this. All of them. The only one that I'm aware of, and I could be wrong, but the only one I'm aware of that is a major operating airport, there's 2 examples that are, I want to say, one is Midway in Chicago, which is where Southwest operates at. It's Chicago's old airport, where you have the terminal right here, concourses right here. You still have a taxiway here and a runway here. But even then, there is some distance. It's not a lot, but there is some distance between that. Not anywhere near as much as the FAA would like, but limited footprint. You don't have a lot of room. I think there's a similar situation in Houston. Go down here. There we go. Yeah, in Houston, you have a ton of room. You have this, and then all this grassy space, and then a taxiway, and then that. So I would say the closest example I can really give is probably Midway in Chicago, and they're very limited on space. And yeah, but none of them that I have ever seen, and again, anyone who sees this in the chat, let me know if I'm wrong. But to my knowledge, none of them has a concourse that is that close to the runway like Burbank does. Okay? The FAA has hated this for decades. They have wanted to try to do something about it for decades, and to be fair, this is the landing runway. This is the takeoff runway. So, God forbid there was an accident or some other weird crap happening. You would have an airplane, conceivably, landing on this runway, possibly out of control, and if it skids or goes anywhere stupid or screwy, and it can't stop it in time, it could conceivably, however remote the possibility, slide it right into that concourse and nail every plane on that ramp. So, like I said, this has been a major, major concern for the FAA for decades. They have wanted to do something about it. There has just been all kinds of unholy resistance from all of the residents around this part of Los Angeles. Now, the thing that is unique about this airport is you notice the topography. Yes, you could conceivably have a takeoff from that part of the runway, take off this way, and turn off to the right and avoid that mountain. The problem with that, and I will show you the other tracker here, the problem with that concept is that if you were to do that, you would be flying this way, out this way, and LAX's air traffic is right here. You can see there's usually a line this time of day. But there's planes that come in from LAX all the way through here. The lower level ones go to Ontario, but all of these other ones are on a landing approach to LAX. Okay, and then LAX takes off over the ocean unless it's raining and everything's going screwy. It is very rare that LAX lands from the ocean, with the exception of midnight to about 6 a.m., which they do for noise abatement reasons. But generally speaking, LAX takes off all of theirs off over the ocean for noise abatement purposes and lands them from the inland. Like you can see, literally right, this is in real time. That is a Al Nippon Airways aircraft that is coming from somewhere in Japan. Let's see here, Haneda in Tokyo Bay. And that's going to go around here to around this part, which is right around downtown's right there. But they usually turn around right around here, and then we'll come down here, get into the formation, and land at LAX. So basically, everything south of here is LAX's sort of airspace. From about here to about here is LAX landing airspace. So you can use this runway at Burbank, but it would put you taking off this way, having to dodge the mountains, and then go full blast to get over the mountains. And there is conceivably, however remote, a possibility that you might intrude upon air traffic that is coming into LAX. You don't want planes going, at landing or takeoff altitudes. You don't want them running generally this direction against the grain, shall we say. So that's a no-no. So this as a takeoff platform never happens. This is why this is the landing runway. This here, there has been on occasion where it's really windy with the Santa Ana winds during the later part of the year. If the winds come up through the valley here, and they do, and it's windy enough, they will divert from landing on this runway, which is, I believe, runway 8, to landing from the north at a very particular angle, and then sort of having to come in that way. It's rare, but it does happen. You never have landings from the south because of the mountains right there. That is not, it's possible. It's possible. The planes can do it. The pilots aren't generally trained for it. Or they might have had training, God forbid there's an emergency and something weird happens and they have to land. Let's say there's an explosion at this end of the runway for some bizarre ass reason, and, a pilot's on approach and he might have to divert around and go this way. Or go to LAX, which is more likely. This does not get used for landings, this runway. from the south. So on rare occasion, it will get used from the north for a landing, but that is extremely rare. This is generally set up as this is the takeoff, this is the landing. And like I said, I'm going to go back to Google Maps here because the satellite picture for plane finder is such crap. So what the FAA has wanted to do, and they finally come to an agreement with the cities of Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena, is to build a terminal over here so that you have the terminal, or excuse me, you have the runway, then you have a taxiway, and then you have, the concourse terminal facility away from the runway. And more importantly, with rare exception that this is ever used, and I would say maybe 1 or 2 days a year, and that might be iffy. I've flown out of there since I was a kid, on and off, and I have never landed from the north. I've seen videos on YouTube, so it does happen, but it's rare. Either way, though, even if this is used for a landing runway, this is nowhere near being in the danger zone, shall we say. Okay? So, the FAA and the city Burbank and Glendale and Pasadena, they've all got together. They got a plan together, and I will show you that going over to this window here. There we go. There we go. Hollywood Burbank Airport's replacement terminal project moves forward. Like I said, that's the reason for it. I think they're looking at maybe trying to get... they've been trying to get this done for decades. They've had all kinds of resistance from everybody. You can see on the little map that I have here that the green part is where they want to build at. And then I think they're going to move some of the freight facilities down to the south end of the other runway. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do in blue, but the green part is going to be the new terminal with the concourse. I think it's going to be single concourse. And because of agreements with the city, they cannot expand Burbank Airport. Number one, they don't have the land. Number two, even if they had the land, they have an agreement for noise abatement reasons with all of these middle to higher upper middle class people around there that they don't want the noise from all the airplanes, even though they all use the airport. So the Burbank Airport is prohibited from growing larger than 14 gates. They can redo the runways, they can move stuff around, and even then, they've had lawsuits up the wazoo from all of these people who do not want additional flights, because you can have, even if you have 14 existing gates, if you do a new terminal, that will incentivize people because they hate LAX, because LAX sucks. They think it'll incentivize people to then go to Burbank, which will then increase traffic at Burbank, which will then increase flights at Burbank, even though Burbank has a rule that you cannot have more than 14 gates. If you were to better use efficiency-wise, you could make better use of those gates and time slots and all the rest of that mess. So that's why they've had the lawsuits. All these people do not want Burbank to get any better. Burbank is one of the only airport I've ever flown into that I can recall where there's no moving walkway ramp. There's a name for it. My brain isn't working right now. You have they have the trucks with the stairs, and the stairs come up to the side of the plane. You get off, you get onto the ground, you walk to the terminal building. There's no jetway. That's the word I was looking for. There's no jetway. None of that. I believe the new terminal and concourse and all that is supposed to have movable jetways because, it almost never rains in LA, but on the rare occasion it does rain. People hate getting wet. So this is all just modern airport standards. At any rate, so that's all being developed. All of this, I don't know what they're going to do with all this. Prime real estate. They're going to, hotels, I don't know. They're going to want to clear all of that out because all of that is, let me see, I can go back to the other window here. There we go. All of this, they're going to want to probably get rid of because that was the whole purpose of all of this, was to get this crap away from the surface of the runway for crash safety reasons. So I would imagine back here somewhere, they're probably going to have a bunch of parking or some other crap. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm not privy to that kind of information. So, at any rate, the reason I'm making this video, now that I've explained the whole situation with that, is because it has to do with most of you probably watching this. You probably pay taxes of some sort. And that's where this story gets really interesting. A few years ago, I'm going to switch over to this one. A few years ago, there was that one. Let's see if I can't get that. Yeah, that'll be it. There's got to be a way to get this bigger. Let me see here. Transition. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So, let me get that to be smaller. There we go. It's what I'm looking for. Okay. So, a few years ago, the FAA decided that, I think for, largely for fuel economy reasons, which is a concern at this airport because the plane tickets out of this airport are always prolifically higher. Number one, LAX has the volume, so tickets are always lower out of LAX. But on top of that, it costs far more fuel to burn because of the geography. And I'll switch back here. Because of the geography. And get that to do its thing. Oh, that's why. There we go. Nope. Okay. It's going to refuse to cooperate. I might. Do you think? Nope. Okay, lovely. So, my mastery of OBS is dubious at best. At any rate, because of this whole situation, they have wanted to deal with this, like I said, for decades, and in 2014, they decided that the FAA decided that they were going to start altering flight plans out of this airport. The landing can't really be adjusted much. It's not really the issue. The issue is when you take off out of this airport, you have the mountains to the south. So as you take out of the runway, you have to turn, clear all of this, and then exit the valley this way. Now, if you're going up to San Francisco and whatnot, you go that way. If you're going out to Vegas or anywhere to the east, you go that way. Okay? I'm going to switch over to this here, see if I can actually get one. Yeah. Now, recently, well, hold on a minute. There we go. So that's the normal landing pattern into Burbank. Okay? That is a flight from Vegas. Okay? You have another one that is coming in here from Salt Lake City. That's the normal landing pathway. Recently, they have begun altering the landing and the takeoff pathways. This never used to happen. This is from Phoenix, and from what I can tell, it's only from Phoenix. But instead of having them fly all the way around and then land this way, like they always used to have to do from Phoenix, the airlines have been trying to get the FAA, in the interest of making tickets cheaper and more competitive to LAX, have been allowing them to fly over here in order to land. Now, the noise isn't nearly so bad when you're trying to land as it is when you're taking off, so as far as I can tell, I don't think they've gotten a ton of complaints about it. But I will tell you that the richest homes in LA and Beverly Hills and all the rest of that mess, they're all generally in this area because this is Beverly Hills, the 405, and all that other mess, okay? Back to Google Maps so you can see. Okay. Let's see here. Greystone. Okay. So this here is Beverly Hills. That's the city of Beverly Hills, and then you have all the Bel Air. All of these are the richest people in Los Angeles and among the richest people in the world. So if you can see this by the landing pattern of Burbank, where that same area is, they don't want anything, even though this is not in the way of LAX's flight path, which is way down here, okay? They don't want anything going south of this, and to that effect, they filed a lawsuit against the FAA some years ago. A bunch of the settlement agreement between the FAA and the Benedict Hills Estates Association, which I don't know where Benedict Hills is, but it's somewhere in that general vicinity. They sued the FAA and they actually won. Shocking, because you have to be among the highest Democrat donors to be able to force the FAA to bend the knee. And the FAA generally, they don't care. there's no amount of lawsuits you can file to force the FAA to do things that it thinks are unsafe, or things that it thinks are uncompetitive, or things that it thinks are against the interests of the aviation industry or against the airlines. The only people who would have that kind of money and that clout would be the people of Beverly Hills, Bel Air, that whole region. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and transition that over. There we go. So this is the settlement agreement between the FAA, the Benedict Hills Estates Association. Again, I'm shocked that this even happened. There was litigation. I believe this is an HOA. They went after the FAA. They won. They actually managed to tell the FAA where the FAA was going to move its planes. Look at it. This is quite well laid out. They basically said to the FAA, here's our proposal for where you can put your planes, not the fuck over our house or our houses. And they laid this plan out. This is for northern San Francisco departures, Seattle, all the rest of that mess. And then the other one, which is sideways, so you kind of have to look at it sideways. But an extended pathway that way. The point of it is, if you actually look at the map here, that flight pattern is nowhere near the other side of the hill, which is where Beverly Hills, Bel Air, and the rest of the homes on Mulholland and the richest people in Hollywood live. So they effectively told the FAA, this is where you're going to fly your planes. The FAA agreed to it. Yeah. California corruption. And by the way, all the people who are in this, guaranteed to be Democrat. Yeah. And this lawsuit was during the Trump years, and they forced even Trump's FAA to bend the knee. Yeah, I could go on for days about that whole thing. And yes, I am a Trump supporter, but Trump at no point in his presidency had full effective control of the federal government because everyone was constantly undercutting him, and this is just merely one example. If Trump had found out about this, he would have probably ordered the FAA to, not to tell these rich Hollywood people to go fuck off, because that's how Trump is. But I'd be shocked if this even made it to Trump's desk. This is technically a local noise abatement issue, but this is my point. These people on the other side of the hill, they had the power to tell the FAA where they were going to fly their planes, and they did. Okay, so this was agreed upon in 2018. By the time all of that litigation and millions of dollars were spent on lawyers and all this other crap, they effectively won. They told the FAA where you're going to park your plane, or where you're going to navigate your planes. Okay? So you will notice, and I will switch back over here. You will notice that at no point in this trajectory of landing, and this becomes more of an issue upon takeoff, but especially during landing, at no point does that plane go anywhere south of that reservoir, which, if I recall correctly, is the Stone Canyon Reservoir. So, you see here on the map, this is Mulholland Drive. Effectively, without actually stating it, but effectively, that agreement with the FAA pretty much told them they had to keep planes from Burbank on the north side of Mulholland Drive. Nowhere to the south, because again, these are all very, very expensive homes. They don't want airplane noise, because, the poor people can have that. So that was all agreed to in 2018. You have that whole situation set up, and going back to the flight, right there. Like I said, this pattern never used to exist when I was a kid. They always came around to the north and landed that way, but that burns a hell of a lot more fuel, and it causes the price of tickets to go up. So this is a recent new addition. There's another one coming in from Phoenix that is doing that exact same trajectory. Literally, this is real time. Doing that exact same trajectory, whereas you have, oh, what happened here? You had a missed approach. Oh, now that is rare. He caught me in the middle of a video making this. Dude apparently had a missed approach. He was supposed to land here, and for some reason there was some problem with it. He aborted and went back around. Interesting. That is very interesting. But anyway, this is the normal landing pattern for Burbank. You got that one landing. You got that one landing. All of them have always gone around to the high desert, around this way, and then in. This is a recent development from the FAA allowing, not that one. That one's from LAX. It's much higher. That's misleading. This is a flight out of Santa Ana that is at what, 32,000 feet? Yeah, that's just going over the area. That has nothing to do with the situation. But you see this here, okay? So you have that happening, where you now have planes landing over the, or I should say, on approach over this here, instead of having to go all the way around here and burn more fuel. But the main thing these people are pissed about, because that agreement with the FAA in 2018 did not stop the lawsuits. The main thing they're pissed about is this, and we're going to watch this live as I talk about it. This is an Alaska flight. Now, when I was a kid, these used to take off. By the time they hit the 134, right around here, this freeway right here, they would pretty much already be turned around and heading out that way. But banking at that speed, and I don't, again, I wanted to be a pilot. Well, didn't turn out to be a pilot, so I don't know about the physics involved or the gas burned or whatever, but this used to be basically a semicircle this way. And now, since 2014, 2016, this is the new flight pattern where they go straight around here. And right now, he's at about 3,600 feet. And I don't recall just how high the Hollywood Hills are right there. And then now he's going way far south. Yeah, the agreement is he's not supposed to go south of Mulholland. But hey, look at that. There's Mulholland, and there he is, right over Stone Canyon Reservoir. Look at that. So this is the FAA's new flight plan. And as you can imagine, these people are royally pissed off about it, because the planes used to sort of just go in a semicircle here and they would leave the valley that way. Well, now the FAA, for fuel burning reasons, global warming or something, I don't care. They have them doing this long takeoff this way. And you can tell, I mean, like I said, it's real time. He's at 1,000 feet here. He's at 2,100 feet here. He's at 3,000 feet here. He's at 4,000 feet here. And about 4,300 feet here. And that reservoir is at about 800 feet above sea level. So these hills are about 1,000 feet. They're not even close to the mountains around the valley, but these hills are about 1,000 feet, and he's at about 3,000 feet. So he's about 2,000 feet above the top of the Hollywood Hills. This has royally pissed off all of these people. And this is where the stuff gets interesting. I knew if I waited on this long enough, you'd be able to actually see that. That's live. And I've watched several Southwest planes do the exact same thing. Some of them have gone about there, some of them there. But this is the new takeoff pattern out of Burbank. And it has all of these people royally pissed off. Now, this where this affects you is where it starts to take your tax money. So now that you can see where that's going, I'm going to switch over to this here. And that there. Where are we at? Not that. Let's see. Okay. There it is. All right, let's switch over to that one. Come on. Oh, you're not going to work. Really? Come on. Ah, you suck. Let's go. Yeah, let's try that again. Gonna work this time? There we go. All right. So this apparently has been ongoing. Apologize for my lack of expertise in using OBS here. I'm a mechanic. I'm working to try to understand this a bit better. But what you have here is this is a massive campaign by all of the homeowners associations, because LA is just full of those damn things, who are acting on behalf, or they're hiring lawyers to act on their behalf, to get the FAA to once again change its flight pattern, even though it already agreed to change its flight pattern for the people of the Hollywood Hills, who are unbelievably wealthy and can force the FAA to bend the knee. clearly this is not working because, as you just saw in real time, it would be 2 hours behind, so this would be what, 3:53 p.m. On the 8th of February, 2023. You can see that obviously they're flying right over that area because that the FAA has instructed them to do so and told them they have the okay to do so. And they, like I said, this has royally pissed off all these people. So they have been just ongoing. There's a whole timeline here. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, meeting after meeting after meeting. It's just, God. These are the people who just cause everything to go badly in society. They have been trying to stop progress on that new terminal, which will satisfy the safety requirements of the FAA, finally, after decades. This is finally getting going now. They've been trying to get that new terminal, I believe, since the late 80s, and it's taken this long. This is why California is just buried in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after red tape after lawsuit. Rich people, people who think that they're rich and aren't, but would like to be, and trying to, now. So you already had the wealthy people, the really, big baller, Democrat donor type people from Hollywood saying we don't want this over our house. So they moved the flight pattern supposedly north past the Mulholland, but as you can see, I'm not sure that that's being followed. Doesn't really matter. I don't care. Call these people. At any rate, you have all these people just causing nothing but problems for the FAA, the city of Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, etc. But the biggest one is this group called Studio City for Quiet Skies. Now, I should probably point out that I live here in Central Texas, so frankly, none of this is my fucking problem, okay? This is just an area that I grew up in. I love that airport. That airport, for the sanity of the people of Los Angeles, what little of it there is left, LAX cannot be moved. LAX cannot be built out over the water. LAX cannot expand past its current footprint. And it only has 4 runways. And as you saw earlier when I was looking at Dallas and at Chicago, those have 6 runways each. Denver's got 4 or 6 or 8. Denver's got, good God, Denver's just huge. For cost of operating and also for traffic flow purposes, you need to have more runways. It's like building bigger freeways. That actually does reduce the traffic. And then eventually when people move in and there's more people on the road and then you end up having the traffic back again, you have to, expand the freeway even further. But the point of it is whenever you have traffic problems, expansion of the current infrastructure is the correct answer. Well, Burbank is not allowed to build more than 14 gates. Yet the demand for flights out of this airport is through the roof. Because LAX, if you've ever been through LAX, it's hell on earth. It is one of the stupidest designs I've ever seen, and I've been through Chicago. Chicago is worse, but that's more because of corruption than it is airport design, and weather. But yeah, you have this here letter to the FAA. Just a city attorney writes a letter. So you have the city of Los Angeles, and most people do not understand. And I'm gonna bring this up again. Let's see here. Most people are not aware see if I can get this to work. Come on. Work. It's just going to be that kind of a day again. Okay. Now, transition. Nope. You're just not going to work. Lovely. All right. Well, let's see here. I have to. Yep. Okay. Now, try that again. Try that again. There we go. Now it's going to work. Most people are not aware that the city of Los Angeles actually looks like this. All of this is owned by the city of Los Angeles. Government corruption at its finest. You see Beverly Hills, not owned by the city of Los Angeles. Right? And Santa Monica and a few other places. But generally speaking, everything in the red here that entire corridor down to San Pedro, Long Beach, and the Port of Los Angeles, all of that, LAX, the entire mountain region here, all of this area, and the entire San Fernando Valley, with the exception of Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena, all of this is City of Los Angeles property. So when I grew up in, Studio City, you lived in North Hollywood, these are all just like sort of neighborhoods of LA. They're all LA. So you could write the address as Los Angeles with that zip code, and these are all City of Los Angeles properties. So what you have is the City of Los Angeles, okay, in a lawsuit versus the City of Burbank, because as you'll notice by the property line of Los Angeles, most of Burbank Airport is inside of the City of Burbank. Even though it's owned by Glendale, Pasadena, and the City of Burbank, it is mostly inside the City of Burbank, with the exception of the north end of that runway, okay? And that is where you end up with these lawsuits like this, okay? Where you have the City of Los Angeles suing the City of Burbank, and the City of Los Angeles is also, I think, co on the lawsuit is all of these HOAs and all these really pissed off people and all this other crap, okay? They all want to stop the expansion of the airport. That's not going to happen. It's just going to delay the inevitable. It's not going to happen. I don't know if they're after their cut of some money or I don't know what. But the Biden's administration passed an infrastructure bill just with all kinds of crap that will not actually build infrastructure. But one of the things you should be aware of as a taxpayer, and I apologize for it taking this long to get into the video. We're at the, 37-minute mark. This is where it starts to affect everyone else in the country. This lawsuit from the City of Los Angeles and these HOAs in the Hills area there against the City of Burbank and against the FAA, that requires lawyers on both sides. And while the City of Los Angeles appears to have no problems having lawyers, the City of Burbank and the FAA must have had some issue, I guess. I don't know. You would think government would have its own lawyers. Don't know. But the City of Burbank says right here, Burbank has used federal infrastructure funds to provide Burbank FAA attorneys with technical support to fight Los Angeles' lawsuit against the Burbank replacement terminal project. They also want to try to force the FAA to once again change the flight patterns, I guess, back to the 2000s. That would royally screw over all the airlines and the prices that have been falling since about the 5-6 years now. Prices have been falling at Burbank Airport on account of it costing less fuel to go in and out of Burbank Airport because it's such a pain in the ass. But you have federal funds being used there to pay the lawyers with the attorneys, and then also the City of Burbank is getting $805,900 in federal infrastructure grants. Those are the grants that are supposed to be given to build freeways and shit. Like Interstate 14 through the middle of Texas, which I would love for them to build because, next time I have to go home to the hellhole, I'd like to not have to drive, 2 hour or an hour or so down to Interstate 10 near San Antonio in order to get onto I-10 to go that way. They're going to build Interstate 14 from here in Killeen out to meet Interstate 10, and then they're going to build Interstate 14 all the way the hell out to Georgia, where it's going to connect all of these military bases, Fort Hood, I believe it's Fort Polk in Louisiana, the one in, I think it's Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia, several other bases. So you're going to have Interstate 14 basically from Savannah, I believe, or the Georgia border, all the way across the south between I-20 and I-10 to split that so that you can have more traffic and alleviate traffic on Interstate 20 and Interstate 10 of east-west traffic of, cross-country shipping and whatnot. So it's going to take them 20 to 30 years to build the damn interstate. Meanwhile, these assholes in California, my home state, California, in my home area, San Fernando Valley, they are getting your taxpayer money, $805,000 of it, not to mention on top of the attorney's fees, This is in addition to the undisclosed attorney's fees amounts, which will be a lot, like millions, possibly tens of millions, actually likely tens of millions of dollars to attorneys. On top of that, they're also getting $805,000 and $900 in federal infrastructure grants to conduct a Part 150 noise compatibility planning study for neighborhoods near the airport. Let me translate this for you into English. They're going to study the noise of the jets leaving the airport, the same jets that have been leaving the airport since the jets started coming into the airport and leaving the airport in the 1950s. The jets that are currently already leaving the airport have been leaving the airport for years, have been landing in the airport for years. This is a study of shit that everyone already knows. So then why are they taking your taxpayers to fund a noise study that they already know the fucking answer to? Because the noise study is intended to come back and say there is absolutely no problem with the new terminal, which, to be fair, there isn't. They need the damn terminal, okay? The study is also going to say there's no problem with noise of these planes flying to the south. And the FAA having this study commissioned will then use science to tell these homeowners associations, and I'm just going to be fair here, rightfully so, but still, to go fuck themselves. They will use the power of science, and in this case, I support it because they happen to be correct, okay? But they are going to use the power of science to tell these HOAs, look, you won't let us expand the airport, you won't let us fix this, that, the other thing at the airport, you won't let us build an airport out in Palmdale or wherever because nobody will use it. We can't expand LAX anymore. We need a viable alternative for an airport for all of these people in the San Fernando Valley, a lot of whom fly to New York, fly to other parts of the country. I've been through Burbank many times. It is a hell of a lot easier to deal with than LAX, even though it costs way more to use. These people around these neighborhoods, they don't care. They just don't want planes flying over their neighborhoods. Too fucking bad. You live in Los Angeles. If you don't like living in an area with that many people, fucking move. And I say this as a person who grew up there, and I would say this as a kid, I'll say it now. This is in my 40s. Tough shit. You chose to live in Los Angeles. These planes have to fly somewhere. The easiest thing to do, not the easiest, definitely not the easiest. The long-term smartest thing to do would be to figure out a way to level off a mountain and build an airport on top of that so that you wouldn't have to have this airport in everyone's way, so that you could have planes land, theoretically, because there's mountains all around this. You could have planes land, theoretically, on top of such an airport. It would cost unholy amounts of money, and California don't have it. But the correct solution would be to put an airport either in the Angeles National Forest somewhere or over between Simi Valley and the San Fernando Valley, somewhere to where them taking off and landing would not cause noise problems. That would be the correct answer. But you'd have to literally level a fucking mountain. The environmentalists will not allow that, ever. You'd have to build it in a valley or in an area where it'd be prolifically difficult to land an airplane safely in compliance with FAA regulations. So that's not going to happen. Or you'd have to move it out to Palmdale, which Los Angeles has floated that idea several times. People are not going to go for it because it is like an hour out to the high desert, even from the San Fernando Valley. You got to go up I-14. It's a pain in the ass. So that's not going to happen. Yet you still have the demand for flights that are not from LAX because LAX sucks that badly. And they're not going to redesign LAX, and they're not going to stop adding more flights to LAX, and they've already got noise complaint problems with LAX, like they got noise complaint problems from stupid-ass people in every major city, all of whom want to use the airport, but never want to actually have planes fly over their house because they hate that shit. Yet they're always demanding the flights get cheaper. They're always demanding the service get better. And yet, we don't want it in my backyard. But they'll use it. This is the problem with stupid people. You want that. You want to. And all these people who are complaining about this noise, I guarantee you, they're people who have used that airport frequently. They're more than happy to shove those airplanes somewhere else in the valley to make them someone else's problem. They don't give a fuck about anyone else other than themselves. But they'll use that airport. This is the problem with people. They're corrupt. They're selfish. They're petty. They're stupid. They're ignorant. And they're corrupt. This is the kind of stuff that's causing California to go down the shitter. Now, I'm just going to sit here as a native Californian, spent the first half of my life in LA. I'm just going to sit here in Texas and watch it burn. California has no idea that the entire rest of the country wants it to fall off into the fucking ocean. I'm not even kidding about that. I heard that sentiment in Utah when I lived there. I heard that sentiment in Illinois when I lived there. Heard that sentiment in Wisconsin repeatedly when I lived there. And I have never heard that sentiment nearly as much as I have heard it since I moved to Texas a year ago. People here hate California. The rest of the entire country despises California. They are literally... If the San Andreas went off tomorrow and sunk that whole damn state into the water, the rest of this country, with the exception of the liberals in New York and Chicago and Seattle and whatever, they would all cry. Because they would lose, a massive source of Democrat votes. But beyond that, the rest of this country could not give one single flying fuck if California dropped off into the ocean this minute. Myself included, and I grew up there. It's this exact kind of crap. So they're getting your taxpayer money, $805,000, to fund a noise study to tell them things they already know, so that they can have a cover-your-ass method in a couple years, whenever this comes back, stating things they already know, but the lawsuit in California courts are going to require them to have it, so that they can say, well, science, to be fair, they are correct, but science says that we are correct, and the thing that we want to do is the correct thing to do, and fuck you. So I'm sitting here going, on the one hand, this is government abuse. On the other hand, that airport is actually necessary. The modifications to it are necessary for safety reasons. And also, I despise HOAs. For a laundry list of reasons, this is just one of them. And these people seem to be under the distinct impression that they have the dick-swinging ability of Beverly Hills. Nah. These are the people who live in the south end of the valley who are upper middle class to upper middle class. They work for the people who own and run the studios on the other side of the hill. These are not the people with big dick energy. They don't have the ability that the people on the other side of the hill have to affect federal government policy. So this will all end precisely as it's doing right now. The FAA, and again, I support what the FAA is doing. I do not support them wasting taxpayer money, but the problem is they're having this bullshit forced on them by these HOAs who are trying to force them to bend the knee the way that they already had to bend the knee to the really uber rich assholes on the other side of the hill. All of this is just dick swinging, which would not be my problem, except that here in Texas, we pay taxes, those go to the federal government, and the federal government then dispenses your tax money, because taxation is theft. They dispense your tax money, and one of the things they have decided to dispense, in addition to the fucking lawyers that they're paying for the FAA in Burbank, which unfortunately are necessary because they're being sued by dumbasses, selfish, greedy dumbasses, but they're going to have to pay $800,000, because that's what shit costs in California, to write, I don't know, probably a 50 to 90 to 100 page piece of paper telling them what they already know. All of this is just bullshit. The FAA is trying to do what they believe is in the best interests of the public, both in terms of safety at that airport and in terms of competitiveness between airlines trying to offer service from that airport, which tickets from that airport are already higher than they otherwise would be. because of the various factors that go into operating flights out of that airport. The whole thing is just stupid. But yeah, you're paying for it. You're paying $805,900 in addition to undisclosed attorney's fees, which will be tens of millions of dollars guaranteed, so that they can come up with a noise study that will give them the required excuse. It is a correct excuse, but it's still an excuse. Will give them the excuse that they need to tell this homeowner association, or the various homeowner associations, to go fuck themselves. These people are not the Democrat super donors on the opposite side of the hill. They don't have the clout. Doesn't matter how many millions of dollars they waste on these lawsuits. They're not gonna get this done. So all of this is one gigantic waste of everyone's time. And you know who makes all the money? Lawyers. You know who's paying for it? You and me. Just asinine. All of it is just asinine. So that's all I have on this particular topic. Just, like I said, at this point, I would just go, let it burn. Every time, when there's all these, you feel bad for these people. And a lot of them I grew up with when the city, when California catches fire every year. And then on the other hand, I sit there and I look and I read stuff like this and I go, fuck it, just let it burn. Let it all burn. Because this is the crap you're dealing with. It's just corruption in every possible way from every direction. Including for the people in this case who happen to be morally correct and logically correct, but they still have to get your taxpayer dollars in order to fight off these dipshits. None of this should be necessary. Anyway, that's all I have for today. We'll catch you on the next one.